Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Warp Core Podcast. This is episode 66. I am UrzaMaster. Joining me as always, Lord Uther and Fert Derby, and we are heading into Season 3 head first with a very curious incident. The Enterprise incident. One of the more interesting episodes of the original series, taking us in, quite frankly, a new direction. A little bit bold, as they boldly go on this 3-year mission, which was supposed to be 5 years, but I guess time dilation, who knows? Fert Derby, tell us a little bit about the Enterprise incident and what brings us to this unique episode.
Thank you, UrzaMaster. Thank you, Lord Uther. Thank you, Trekkies here and abroad. Star Trek, the original series, Season 3, Episode 2. The Enterprise incident first aired on September 27th, 1968. It was directed by current showrunner John Meredith Lucas. Lucas had directed once before. He did The Ultimate Computer, which we covered right here on the Warp Core. Check your archives. Episode Warp Core 63. He also wrote The Changeling, which we covered in Warp Core 45, and Patterns of Force, the Nazi episode, which we covered in Warp Core 60. So he has Trek bona fides, and in addition to his show running and writing duties, he is also now directing, and this was one of his helming efforts. This was also a DC Fontana episode, and it was the last solo credit that DC Fontana receives as a scriptor. We've had her with us all the way back to Season 1, and her relationship, at times chilly, with Gene Roddenberry. She'll have 2 more story credits this season on Season 3, but this will be the last time that we see DC get the full, undiluted screenplay, teleplay credit for this episode. Also to note, which we'll talk about here probably in some depth, this was the Spock Flirts episode, and I have to tell you, it was absolutely brilliant. But originally, Gene Roddenberry snuck into the writer's room and wrote this very over-the-top scene in which the Romulan commander was, and I quote, raining kisses down on Spock. And Gene Roddenberry's name is before many of the credits and anything that happened, so obviously he was the big boss. Yet Leonard Nimoy insisted that there would be no raining kisses in this episode, and I think we the viewers and we the Star Trek story fans are grateful that in this case Nimoy's voice prevailed, because what we got instead was just one of the reasons why this episode I don't think has gotten enough love, at least as far as my perceptions of the original series. They talk about standalone, standout episodes, Mirror, Mirror, The Trouble with Tribbles, The City on the Edge of Forever. I'm here to tell you, friends, in the views of this Trekkie, this one deserves to be on that Mount Rushmore of all-time great Star Treks. This was a fantastic 50 minutes of television. And that's not to say it was flawless, but even with its flaws, this is what Star Trek should have been churning out week after week. And if it had, they never would have pulled the 5-year mission down to 3. There's just so much, just a wealth, a plethora, a bounty of great things to bounce off of here. We have a Shirley Kirk. I mean, in the little episode tease before we go to the main credits, I mean, this is a guy you want to lock in the brig. I mean, he's sarcastic, he's rude, he's just, biting off the head of anyone, within earshot. He's even giving Spock the business. We have Scotty, who still needs a haircut. I mentioned this in our previous Warp Core episode there. We have neutral zones. We have Romulans who, in the middle of a dialogue scene. They take calls, right? I was like, pardon me, hang on. Hello, Commander? Yes, all right. We're going to destroy you. We have Romulans reusing Klingon ships, not for any real plot device, despite the fact that Spock tells us they're now using Klingon designs, but to save money. Because they'd already built the models for the Klingon ships. And actually, whether it's the new and improved special effects restorations or the original effects, I'm sure that was what factored in. Like, yeah, we don't need a bunch of new Romulan warbirds. Just use the Klingon ships we had in season 2. I'm sure that was what went into it. They look great with the restored visual effects regardless. And we get constant shots of them encircling and ensnaring the Enterprise in deep space. Speaking of cost-cutting moves, did anybody notice that the cloaking device is actually just the repurposed head of the Changeling robot, which was an episode that John Meredith Lucas wrote? So I'm sure he said to the props guys, hey, we don't need to build something new. Just go screw the head off that robot. We'll stick him on a glowy orb. And there we go. There's your cloaking device. It doesn't really look practical from an engineering standpoint, but it's a nice sci-fi visual nonetheless. Why not? But I just couldn't help but notice, but like that looks awfully familiar. And again, NBC, when they're trying to save every nickel, these are some of the things that we're starting to see in season 3. I don't know how far down the wormhole will go, but by episode 2, you're already kind of starting to see it. That being said, and the restored special effects aside, I don't feel like this episode cheats us in terms of, bang for your buck. I don't really believe that we're sitting there, they could have just shot it all on the Enterprise bridge if they really wanted to, save some cabbage. We're still getting multi-locations. We're still getting that Star Trek flavor. So the penny pinching hasn't quite set in just yet. Romulans back then all wanted to be Magneto, and they all have X-Men Ian McKellen style helmets to differentiate them from their Klingon brethren, I suppose. So that for me was fun, just having them walk around. I wanted them to try to bend metal. I know Lord Uther will comment on William Shatner's emoting in the first half of this episode. I think when they surgically made him look like a Romulan, I don't know, it feels like maybe they put some padding in the uniform. I thought he looked a little plump post-surgery. I couldn't tell. A little thick, if you will, around the midsection. More of a dad bod than a Leith Kirk that we're used to seeing from season 1. I could have been mistaken, and I don't want to body shame anybody, including Bill Shatner, but I looked at him and said, there's a whole lot of Kirk to love there, it looks like. A little more than I was used to seeing. We had the Vulcan death grip, which I'm sure we'll go into. It looked like if she was offering Spock a blue beverage and said it would stimulate him, is this Romulan ale? And if so, Spock took it, like a pro, like a champ. I feel like he could have been drinking there under the table all night. I loved Joanne Linville, who played the Romulan commander. I loved her because I think she is the most fully realized Star Trek villainess, Star Trek heavy, played by a female, that we've ever seen. And you only have to go back to like A Private Little War, where you had sort of the scheming Lady Macbeth style, native woman who was trying to, use her magic to try to cloud men's minds and so forth. And it very much felt in the period. Or you had sort of the Terry Garr, played it at a high decibel pitch, kind of like the silly secretary who manages to come through in a pinch. This woman here, this Romulan, Joanne Linville, she actually ended up teaching acting during her career at the Stella Adler Academy in Los Angeles. And one of her students turned out to be future Bruce Banner Mark Ruffalo. And he has high praise for Joanne's attention to detail and craft. And it's just this woman, she is confident, she is clever, she is not easily outfoxed. I would argue that in terms of leaving an impression, this is the female equivalent to Ricardo Montalban's Khan Noonien Singh and Space Seed. Like, she's formidable, right? And at the same time, she's fully developed, at least in the brief time that we get to spend with her, as somebody who is hopelessly, achingly pining for a deeper connection, spiritual, physical, emotionally, with Spock. And their interplay, not overshadowed by raining kisses and so forth, their courtship, if you will, how Leonard Nimoy as Spock plays it dry, has his poker face. We would be forgiven if we thought maybe he's actually considering a change of address and so forth, because she's that convincing. And like I say, it just makes the eventual reversal and betrayal, which longtime Star Trek fans will assume is coming, it makes it all the more painful there. And I never once didn't believe in that whole dynamic between those two. In fact, I could have had another 45 minutes of it, to be honest, while all this other subterfuge of stealing the cloaking device was going on. And I said the episode wasn't flawless. It was a rather convoluted plot to try to get the cloaking device. First, we're going to get ourselves captured. Then we're going to fake a death. Then we're going to beam back surgically. Like, there was a lot into this heist, if you will. And I think I appreciated the simplicity of just Spock being there as kind of the red herring traitor, and keeping the Romulan commander distracted while the rest of the crew went about and did what they had to do. Because, like I say, this is emotionally rich Star Trek. By now we know who these characters are, but we're getting shades and depth to Spock in this one. I mean, we're seeing it in Strange New Worlds, with Ethan Peck and his bold new take on the character. But right here, like I say, if Leonard Nimoy felt a little embarrassed by walking around in a daze in Spock's brain, I would think an episode like this would more than satisfy him creatively as an actor, because again, he has to play basically this churning, passionate romance, and he has to play it, at room temperature or even colder, and yet we still feel it. We still feel this incipient conflict between human Vulcan, passion and logic. And like I say, I don't know why this episode isn't mentioned in the same breath as some of the other classic Treks, because again, for this viewer seeing it for the first time, this is a high watermark, probably for the season. It's probably all downhill from here, but this is a terrific 50 minutes of television. And again, had the rest of the season or subsequent seasons able to come close and hit this mark, then we're having an alternative universe in terms of discussing Trek. So, gentlemen, am I getting high on my own supply, or was the Enterprise incident just darn fine Trek?
I loved it. I was really surprised by the sophomore effort of season 3 here, because I think honestly, maybe season 1's second episode was pretty good, but I wasn't Who Mourns for Adonais season 2 episode 2.
Yes.
So I was expecting that. I was expecting it to be kind of this really could have been a great two-parter.
Oh yeah.
And I think of like some of the classic two-parters from Next Gen, like the Star Trek Jellicoe, where David Warner's, may he rest in peace, fantastic Cardassian Obsidian Order member and Picard had this. I can't wait to talk about that episode. But that two-parter had everything that this single episode had in just a more condensed version. And I feel like if they'd have had the time and maybe the budget to do something a little bit bigger, maybe have a ship-to-ship battle in the neutral zone. Maybe have a little bit of, Spock coming across as like the cliffhanger. He's betrayed the Enterprise, and Kirk is dead, and Spock's about to get in bed with the Romulan, temptress. Literally, I mean, it would have been incredible television. And then, of course, the follow-up episode is really the climactic denouement of Spock redeeming himself and Kirk stealing the cloak device and all of this resolution. I mean, they really condensed it into one episode, which I think is really its only major flaw. Is there was a lot of story here that could have been. It could have been a movie. This could have been a Trek movie, and that. It's a little disappointing only for that reason. Is like it had so much going for it, but as a standalone episode, still fantastic. Yeah, high watermark for sure. I mean, even at the comparison of some of the last episodes of season 2, this was a great episode. So I really enjoyed it.
Would have made a great movie.
There
Wrote
you
it
go.
down.
Great minds.
It's all right though. I like when UrzaMaster thinks we think alike sometimes. Man, let me tell you something. That cloaking device, for all what it does for an entire ship, is some of the lightest machinery ever made. I mean, or Kirk's one of the strongest men around because he's just holding that thing, getting transport. He's handing it off to the engineer to go put it. Go install this thing. Like you're putting in a light bulb, right? Yeah, go install this. It'll take you 15 minutes. Just handing it off. So I did like that this cloaking device is portable. Yes. And can be carried by anyone. So that was really great. Remind me of the lady who played the Romulan commander. Her name again?
Joanne Linville was her name.
When I first saw her, she could have been Catwoman in Batman.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she had that exact vibe. I actually thought she was one of the Catwomen. I had to go look it up to see if she had played Catwoman on Batman. But she really gave off that vibe. I could have seen her in the outfit for that. She just kind of had that look about her. Yeah, if this was a movie, what a great way they could have kind of springboarded into movies by using this whole idea. Which leads me to this question, and for all of our great Trekkies out there, or please, for our followers, write in the comments below, help this old man out, this graying Trekkie out. Why is the Federation so anti-cloak? I mean, I think at first it was they didn't have the technology, but then it becomes we're not going to use this technology. So maybe one of you can help me out as to why they would not want to have the cloaking device, though we're going to wind up seeing it in a movie where they literally hide an entire outpost using the cloak. So help me.
Well, and I have the same question too, because where did this device go? Because they don't, we think about Picard, like they use the Klingon ship from Star Trek 4 because it has a cloaking device, but does Section 31 have this cloak somewhere? We do know that they've adapted the technology, and I think in Deep Space Nine, do they use it? But it's never to the impact that the Klingons or the Romulans, leverage it. And I think about like the Dominion War, like this would have been a huge asset in the Dominion War. And they didn't, I don't know if it's just a Starfleet, like holier than thou thing, but then they'll use a biological weapon. Like I struggle with this a little bit, and I think it's something that would be interesting territory for them to break if they wanted to in Legacy or another Star Trek series, which I think they should do. There has to be some philosophical reason that they don't use the cloaking technology, and my guess is it's probably less grandiose and probably more practical than anything.
Yeah. It uses a lot of power.
Yeah.
I thought it would be more like, well, this is, you think about how the British Redcoats wanted to fight the the colonial soldiers in the Revolutionary War. I mean, we're just going to line up and blow you away with our cannons and our battle lines and so forth. And maybe Starfleet thinks that, like, cloaking and completely disguising yourself and so forth is not the honorable way to fight. I know that's sort of putting some high-minded morals on there that is not in evidence. But I think I like Ursa's idea that maybe the damn thing just chews up a lot of battery. Like, boy, we plugged this thing in and we're not going anywhere very fast anytime soon. That could have been a factor.
And it's established up until Undiscovered Country that they have to turn their cloak off in order to fire their weapons, which obviously that was the big deal about the Bird of Prey, is you had a cloaked, version of this that could fire, though it emitted gas. But that's a whole nother story. So,
don't we all?
Yes, which you're able to track. So I was reading here just a little bit real quick. It was like an ideology. Hey, we don't need to do that. So that holier than thou idea, I could see that kind of being there. Or we're really great and we don't need it, right? Where obviously, but then they wind up using it in one of my favorite Star Trek movies, Insurrection, to cloak themselves. But so anyway, yeah, great episode. This is one of those episodes where I think I might have cut UrzaMaster off at some point. But anyway, I think it's one of those episodes where you could show it to someone and this would get them on board with Star Trek. Like, this is that type of an episode. So to Fert's point about putting it possibly on a Mount Rushmore of episodes, this could be one of those episodes. And we get to see Leonard Nimoy in all of his conveying emotion without doing so. I mean, when he's talking to the commander, it's just excellent acting. Again, we get some Shatner over the tops at different points.
Oh, yeah.
Love those eyebrows, by the way. So, it all comes together and works out. And I agree. Scotty's hairdo, the first two episodes, the combing back just does not work. And did you know this? Bill Shatner is wearing a toupee in all 3 seasons. No. Like, he was all toupee. Yes. He was in his toupee. All those, you wouldn't even know it. Well, at least I didn't know it. I had to look it up.
That's got to be the best toupee ever, because I would have never guessed that.
Yep, it's kind of crazy.
Wow.
I think the Shatner overacting, we do have to mention that, because this one gives us, shut up, Spock. You're a liar. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. Like that, even for James Kirk, as a man on the edge.
And the way he says kill. Yeah, the way he says kill, he's like, I'll kill you. Like, he's saying it, kill you, like that. I mean, it was just, so Shatner.
Yes, that was there. Nurse Chapel's back. I said that in our previous episode. It's always nice to see Nurse Chapel. I love Scotty, even with his hair, making a stand on the Romulan commander who says, you're going to follow us into the nearest starbase. I'll do no such thing, lass. If you try to do anything, I'll just destroy this ship and you along with me. Like, I thought that was great there. I love at the end, we're talking about this relationship and why it felt like convincing and so forth. When Spock has to betray the Romulan commander and re-embrace his Starfleet tendencies, which he was doing all along. And she, what kind of a monster are you, or whatever the line is for her. And he says, I'm the first officer of the Enterprise. And she slaps him. And that's a moment that could have rang so hollow and just so like, oh, obviously, But when she slaps him, and again, he doesn't react, but he feels that pain. And I felt that slap, unlike a tropey soap opera-ish like gesture, like there was real weight behind it. And again, this goes back to just how Joanne, like as an actress, if you look over her credits, she had plenty of credits. She did an episode of Gunsmoke here and an episode of Bonanza there. And I think UrzaMaster alluded to this in one of our prior Warp Cores. She made a living, a working actress, who then turned out to become a teacher and inspired other actors in their craft, including Mark Ruffalo. But she never attained superstardom. And she probably did her convention circuits and signed autographs and posed for pictures and all of that. But she was, as I say, just completely confident in the material and who she was in her own skin. And you felt that. You didn't feel like this was just somebody showing up to read the lines or, oh, so this is Star Trek. I can be way out there and way good. Like, even though she's playing an alien race and being, like, this was a 100% three-dimensional character, even for a short 50-minute episode. And like I say, it's like, I kind of wish she had tasted, if she could have delivered more performances like this, I kind of wish she had tasted a bigger slice of stardom at some point, or had a vehicle where they could have, done that. Because like I say, I feel like she's the kind of actress who probably approached Gunsmoke and Star Trek and General Hospital and whatever else she was in with the same commitment. Like, I believe in what's on the page, and I'm going to make that convincing. If not for the audience, at least for myself, and it's going to do that job anyway. And like I said, I hope we see more performances like this going forward, in the third season. But we're 2 seasons and an episode in, and like I say, this is the absolute standout. I mean, this is, for me, Joanne Linville, this is the guest starring Emmy, primetime, Emmy, like best supporting performance, guest role in a. I would have easily given it to her, for being able to convincingly flirt with Spock and make me feel like, she was betrayed by love.
I'm with you 100%. I also love the ruse of the Vulcan death pinch. I thought that was great. Obviously, the Romulans in this era don't know that much about the Vulcans, and because of the separate societies, it played very well. Excellent writing. I mean, this is a fantastic episode. So with that being said, we must bestow upon it the Warp Core ratings, as we are often wont to do. Fert Derby, you've gushed about this episode, so let's hear your Warp Core ratings first.
I'm gushing 7s. Like I say, if we walk away from our 3-year retrospective of the original series, and we have a legitimate scorecard that we turn into the clubhouse, and there's like 5 or 6 7s throughout 3 seasons, I mean, that's probably what you can expect, the average and the means to roll out to. And I'm not ashamed to put the Enterprise incident in as a 7 on that scorecard. I think, to Lord Uther's point, this can be an episode that invites you into the franchise, and then you want to seek out new life forms and new civilizations. And at the same time, if this is the only episode of Star Trek you see, I think you'll completely get it. You'll get the crew dynamics. You'll get what this whole thing was all about. What was all that hullabaloo about? I think this is, 50 minutes that can be, put in a Starfleet Academy museum, which then a later crew can break out and use to save the universe. The Enterprise incident, for me, I know probably this is as good as it gets. So hopefully season 3 proves me wrong on more than one occasion. But this is ship shape, not a speck of dust on an engineering council if we do a surprise inspection.
Sorry, I was trying to look something up. 7, without a doubt, but with this caveat: wasted opportunity in terms of we really don't hear about the cloaking device again. I believe we could have had a recurring character that was a baddie in a sense, being this commander. And I'm going to equate it out to that episode of Next Gen, which I can't wait to talk about. And I can't remember the name of the episode, but we've talked about it before, where towards the end, you have that changeling beetle-like thing that was inside one of the admirals at Starfleet, and this huge, to me, it could have been one of those, episodes that could have changed the course of Trek, and we never hear about it again, which we were hoping we were going to hear about it during Picard, possibly season 3, and then there's no mention of that little alien that was inside of that one admiral. So to me, that was a wasted opportunity in Next Gen as well. So that's my only caveat to this, but otherwise, to Fert's point, great acting, great writing. Urza, you talked about that. And with the updated with the updated special effects made it to me even better. So definitely 7.
And I'm right on board, simpatico again with the crew. 7 out of 7 warp cores for me. I also agree, a bit of a wasted opportunity. This could have made a great 2-part episode, great movie. I agree, this could have been an amazing recurring villain. Unfortunately, Star Trek has a bunch of those that just, never quite made it. Even Harry Mudd could have come back in more episodes and been an incredible villain, or if not a villain, like a foil, like Q, who I think we'll talk about eventually, is not really a villain as much as he is a narrative character that can drive a lot of stories all at once. I also think that it shows how much the behind the scenes folks were scrappy. And that is one thing that I think we'll see a lot in season 3 for the better episodes, is that they could take very little and do a lot with it. If it means recycling the head of a robot, they'll recycle the head of a robot. If it means introducing a completely out there premise that somehow pays off, or maybe it doesn't, they're willing to take those risks. And for that, I salute them endlessly. And for all of you out there in pending rebrand world, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Drop us a comment. How did you feel about the Enterprise incident? And as always, live long and prosper.